a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a humanitarian, and president. Jimmy Carter died at 100 years old.
We don't have to be rich, we don't have to be powerful, we don't have to be influential, we don't have to be good speakers in order to make a beneficial impact.
Tonight, we look back on President Carter's life, what he told WFAA he wants his legacy to be, and reaction from Texas and across the country to the death of America's 39th president. Tonight, tributes lined the sign outside the Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta. People continue to leave flowers, even peanuts, to mark the passing of former President Jimmy Carter. Carter died today at his home in Plains, Georgia, surrounded by his family. He entered hospice care in early 2023 with his beloved wife of 77 years, Rosalind Carter. She passed away in November of last year. Jimmy Carter made multiple trips to North Texas, including in 2014. He was 90 years old at the time, but still building homes for Habitat for Humanity and still sitting down for interviews. Tonight, WFAA's senior political reporter Jason Whiteley revisits his conversation with the former president.
Jimmy Carter might be best remembered for what he did after his presidency, rather than his one term in the White House.
Mr. President, thanks for sitting down with us and laying down the hammer and drill for a moment.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. Get a little rest.
Carter had just turned 90 when we last spoke with him on Inside Texas Politics. That was in 2014 when he was in Dallas to help build more than 100 homes for Habitat for Humanity.
I read that you're the first elected president born in a hospital?
I was. My mother was a registered nurse in a little town of Plains. We had 500 people living in Plains at that time. Now we've grown to 630. And my mother was a registered nurse. She was the operating room assistant to the doctor. And he wanted to get her back in the operating room as quickly as he could. And he had an empty room right across the hall from the operating room. So my mother had her baby in the hospital.
Carter is said to have once described himself as conservative, moderate, liberal, and middle of the road. He was governor of Georgia in 1971, then elected president in 1976. Notably, the last Democrat to win Texas. Politically, history will remember Carter as the first to broker peace in the Middle East. Many others, though, will likely remember him for crippling inflation. It soared to 14% on his watch. Then in 1979, another crisis gripped the nation. Iranian militants stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, taking 66 Americans hostage. Carter worked until the final hours of his administration to free those Americans. But the former president wanted to point out something else to us about his time in the White House.
You know, we've been at war almost constantly since the Second World War. If you look at it, I think we've been at war with about 35 different countries now. And when I was in the White House, you know, fortunately, and my commitment, we never fired a bullet, we never dropped a bomb, we never launched a missile.
What do you think your legacy should be? More political, more humanitarian, what?
Well, I think both combined. I think the two words that I would like to have described me was I kept the peace and I did all I could to promote human rights. And we look on human rights, particularly at Habitat, it's not just freedom of speech and freedom of the press and you know, trial by jury, but also the right to have a home that's decent, and the right to have food to eat, and the right to have a modicum of education, and a little bit of health care. Those are basic human rights that quite often an American doesn't think about as a human right. We think about, you know, political freedom.
Jimmy Carter is the end of an era. A peanut farmer from Plains, Georgia, who ascended to the world's most powerful position, but never forgot where he came from.
And you look back and you see, I've done all I possibly could as a human being.
Quite a testament to a life well lived. Jimmy Carter, a humanitarian, peacemaker, and president, who says he tried hard in each role to leave this world better than he found it. In Dallas, I'm Jason Whiteley.
The unedited interview with President Carter is now available on a special episode of Y'all-itics that we just dropped. It is ready to download right now, wherever you get your podcasts.